Alright, boils and ghouls. So, like I said, I'm still feeling kind of shitty, under the weather. My nose is still all congested as hell. But I'm going upstate tomorrow. I was supposed to go up 3 days ago to see my daughter. So I'll be up there for the week. So I'll be traveling tomorrow. So I wanted to get Critters 3 out of the way. So, like I said in the Critters 2 video, I saw this once, forever, another lifetime ago when I was a kid. And I only remember it because it's Leonardo DiCaprio's first movie. Now, I don't remember anything about the plot. All I read is the plot here on Amazon. And could someone tell me, just like before we even start this, is this kind of like the Critters Go to the Hood, like, installment in this series? Because the plot synopsis, that's the first thing I thought of. Because they said it's in Los Angeles, so we're no longer in the town of Grover's Bend, where the first two movies took place. We're now in Los Angeles, in a low-income apartment building. And the first thing I thought of is Critters Go to the Hood. So I'm wondering if that's the way it is. I don't think so, because they should have used that marketing ploy if that's the way they're going. But we got a young Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm just hoping this stays on somewhat of a quality level, but from what I've heard from most people, it does not. So, let's see Critters 3 from 1991. Now, this is direct-to-video, which, for some reason, all these tiny, killer creature movies, after the second one, they all go direct-to-video. Gremlins, luckily, they didn't have one after the second one, so they didn't have one to go to direct-to-video. But we have Don Hopper back in here, so I guess this is just his franchise, right? Charlie, the guy, the drunk, who then became a hitman, and then he became the sheriff in the last movie of Grover's Bend. So I'm real excited to find out, and I hope they pay attention to it, of how he became the sheriff, haphazardly and very quickly, as I might add. As I said in the last video, sheriff just throws him the badge, you're the new sheriff, and then that's just how it works, no paperwork. But now he's in Los Angeles, so I hope they explain, like, why he gave up a sheriff job in Grover's Bend to move to Los Angeles, but they're probably not going to, right? So we end up opening on the road. It's a nice day. Sound of bird chirping in the air. And we see a car come down that road. It's all very thrilling so far. Then we see this family in the car. They're singing a Broken Candy Mountain, like, terribly in the, you know, like the call response way when you're on, like, a road trip. Dun, 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 hey, and then it's bad, it's terrible, whatever. But we got a father and his two kids. His daughter looks like a teenager or so, and a younger boy. No Leo DiCaprio yet, and they get a flat tire. Now, the director of this, Kristine Peterson or something like that, they said the screenplay was co-written by, I forget his name, but I'm pretty sure he's the one who directed the next one, Critters 4. So he had some play in the writing in this movie and then took over directing for the next one. So let's see how his writing fits for this one. Because trust me, having the sound of birds in the air with a family singing Broken Candy Mountain while driving down the road is not the way I'd open my Critters 3. I was waiting for the how their mother died, which was obviously coming. And yeah, their mom died 2 years ago. Alright, so the teenage girl is, or whatever age she is Annie. Then Johnny's the little boy, and then Cliff, or Clifford, is the father's name. And then we get Leo DiCaprio, Lil Leo, and he looks so young, but he still got it, man. Like, he's delivering his lines, like, pretty damn well for this. I can pretty much predict now Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be one of, if not the biggest takeaway and positive from this film. But then we have our friend show up, Charlie, and he ends up warning all the kids about the critters. Even Leo's mannerisms and his facial expressions are great, man. And so they're playing Frisbee, and then the Frisbee gets lost in the woods. So Lil Leo, Josh, his character, I'm just going to call him Lil Leo, why not? You don't get to call him that often. So Lil Leo ends up trying to, like, show off, you know, I'm a big shot, I got this, I'm going to get this Frisbee. And then they get the shit scared out of them from Charlie, who just comes out of nowhere. And instead of them being frightened from the potential, like, drunk meth head who just stumbled upon them in the woods and is telling them, like, all creepily, and looks like he's on a bender, which he tells the kids about the critters, by the way, with an entire, like, 3-minute flashback of the events of the first two movies, which I hope they don't use a lot of, like, clips from the first two movies in this one, and it turns into it'll never be as bad as Puppet Master The Legacy. The whole movie's a goddamn clip show. But it made me think, and I mentioned this in the premiere of Critters 2, It took me way too long after 2 Critters films to put together the Hitmen, Ugly. Come on, y'all. That took me way too long. 2 films. And I had to hear myself talking about it in the Critters 2 video to say, are you fucking kidding me? Ugly? You didn't get that? So, I think something happened to Lee, right? At the end of the last one, there was some weird shit going on with her, him, whatever you want to call it. But Ugg got away. Ugg left the planet. So, hopefully we get half of Ugly. And I'm pissed I missed this line from the second movie. Because in the little clip reel we see here, he says, Charlie's, when he's explaining about how he wants to be a bounty hunter and that he's someone up in space as a hitman and he's no one on Earth. He says, I gotta go where the cosmic winds will blow me. And I didn't pick that up last time. I'm so mad at myself. Yep, just like I thought. That whole 3-minute clip show that was not real fun to sit through, Leonardo ends it with a brilliant line. Just saying, you don't expect us to believe this horse shit, do you? That made it worth it. I told you, Little Leo's gonna carry this movie. I do gotta say, though, Opper, as Charlie, his character in these movies, I really like him. Like, I feel like this is a very underrated protagonist or / leader of a franchise. Charlie's character here. You never hear him brought up. And that's why I totally forgot about him, because nobody ever mentions him. But he's a very lovable guy. I mean, he went from a bad alcoholic in the first movie to doing good things for the human race, for trying to exterminate the critters. And he's trying to help these kids. Now there's crystals that came out of nowhere that he says friends of his from far off. So, I mean, I'm guessing it's Ugg. But it could be any of the aliens. Who knows what he's run into all his time in space. They give him a crystal, and so he says, I only have a few left. And he gives it to Johnny, the little kid. And he says, when this turns green, that's when you have to watch out for you and your family. So now they have critter detection crystals for when there's a nearby invasion. That's cool, I guess. So they say goodbye to Charlie, and then again, little Leo kills it. Says, give my regards to Mars. Fantastic. So then we find out that little Leo is the son of this crooked landlord, some douchebag. Told you, Matt. And Charlie ended up dropping what little Leo describes as like a homemade bullet, and so he holds on to that for sure. Then we see a critter. We don't see it. It's all from POV shots. So I wonder how much of the critters are actually going to see in this movie. Running under the family's car, and it'll put some eggs there. And then they drive off not knowing critter eggs are there. And they end up getting a first-class trip to the destination the family's going to, Los Angeles, to this apartment building. Let me just say this, too, as a parent. This teenage girl, right before they leave, where the tire broke down and they met Lil Leo and Charlie and everything, she says, Dad, listen, you gotta hear this. There's this strange guy in the woods. And the father cuts her off and says, I don't want to hear it. All right, I told you to stay... When your teenage girl is telling you there's a strange dude she saw in the woods, you're going to want to hear the rest of that story out. Now we're in Los Angeles, and we literally get introduced to Los Angeles by seeing a guy carry a fish in a fish bowl in real time for about 2 minutes. There's this guy named Mario, and he looks, you take one look at this guy, it looks just like Mario. Like, if you had a guess the name competition, and you said, look at this guy and guess the name, the first thought would be Mario. And that's his name. And that took a lot longer than I ever anticipated to get that out. However, that's Mario, and that's not the guy with the fishbowl we've been following. That would be Frank. So then Fishbowl ends up going down to the basement, and he put the fishbowl down like a little bit ago, but he carried that a long-ass while. He goes down to this cellar, and he sees the critter eggs have hatched, but he don't know what they are yet, obviously. But he's touching them. He puts his finger and he smells it. He's disgusting. And then this other garbage guy outside finds the egg too. He's looking at it. But then I guess they just carry on with their day, right? They don't ask any more questions. Oh, that's Frances Bay, the grandma here, or whoever the hell she is to them. From Seinfeld with the marble rye. She's Mrs. Tremont or Chalfont, whatever, in Twin Peaks. She's been in a million things. Great to see her. I don't get to see her often because she's been dead as shit for a long while now, right? Mrs. Mengies, or Mengies, and the same with the husband. I don't know how they're related. I'm guessing they're relatives. I'm going to guess they're grandparents. If they said it, I missed it. But apparently the kid's father, Clifford, he's just driving them here. He's going home, like, the next morning. So I wonder if he gets to catch Critters 3 in action or if he misses it completely. So we're about a half hour into an hour and 20 minute and change film on a direct-to-video third installment of a franchise. We need Critters now. Like, we need Critters doing shit right now for this to be worth it in any way. Because they fuck with you a bit with the egg earlier, and with the point of view when the critter puts the egg on the family's car, but you don't see any havoc being run amok by these critters. And then the douchebag with the fishbowl, he has rats for pets, which figures. And then he hears a noise in his vent, and he goes and looks through it, and you could clearly see a critter's glowing big-ass red eyes. And he thinks it's just a rat of his and tells it to go upstairs. And it listens and it goes upstairs. We need critter action now. Never thought I'd see the day, but we get a hot sneaker jump scare. Frank, the douchebag, it's trying to be tense with him in the basement, and you hear critter sounds, and he opens the washing machine or the dryer. And he sticks his hand in, and he goes, ow, ow, and then he pulls out a sneaker, and he goes back and forth with it like it's too hot. I've never seen a hot sneaker jump scare in a horror movie before. So there's some points for this movie. So finally something happens, and the critter jumps out and starts, attacking, biting this guy on his side here. And then he pulls out a screwdriver and stabs him, and it's a cool shot because you see his blood like splatter on the ground, and then when he stabs the critter, the green blood they have splatters on top of the splatter of him. That looks pretty cool. And then another one rolls like Sonic his way, makes his entrance. They attack him. And then weird editing to stop that. You see the ball going, a critter is a ball. And then you just see it cut to a shot of a critter's mouth opening. And then it cuts to the next scene. The editing is strange. But I mean, the scene as a whole is not great either. So then little Leo, his stepdad and him are driving at night, and he calls the guy who just got killed, Frank, fishbowl douchebag, and the critter answers. And the puppetry still looks alright. Like, we definitely don't see as many critters at this point, but it still looks good. It's nothing like Ghoulies, 3 Ghoulies Go to College, where I took one look at how big the Ghoulies are and how weird they look and said, what the hell did they do? Like, the critters still look like critters here, so I'm fine with the puppets. The puppetry looks fine. But critters know how to answer phones, apparently, now. And he's having this whole argument, thinking it's the guy, Frank, and he's saying, fine, then I'm just going to come over and your ass is fired. You have no idea. The critter's laughing and stuff, so he's taking that as a taunt. It's funny. Oh, then little Johnny, he's with the... Again, it has to be their grandparents. Doesn't really matter. He ends up seeing a picture while the grandpa is going through the newspaper, and he sees a picture of Charlie. And he says, that's him. And he pulls the critter crystal detection device out, and it's glowing bright green. And he says that's when you're supposed to take care of yourself and your family. So Charlie better hurry and get there. Then you have this other tenant who gets killed. Very stereotypical overweight woman with the moo-moo, with the curls in her hair and stuff that it looks like she hasn't been fucked since the bicentennial. That's this type of woman, and she goes into the basement. They're all in the basement, the critters, in the laundry room. She goes down there, and again, the puppet work looks really good. She freaks out, she sees them, and then one of the critters actually falls into a puddle of bleach, and there's a cool little effect there. Let me say this movie's so much better at this point in the movie, and there's, even if it tanks so hard for the next half of the film, it's still leagues upon the sea better than Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Go to College. I'll say that right now. Oh, and that Moo woman, she doesn't get killed. I hit record first. I premature ejaculated with the whole moo thing before I finish the scene. So Annie comes in, discovers the critter, says, what the hell are these things? And she rescues Moo Woman. What the fuck was that just now that happened? Did I miss something earlier when they said that she was like a bowler on the bowling team or something? Or did they just think it was cool to splice footage of a bowling ball going down an alley and hitting all the pins while she's throwing a garbage can Annie down the stairs, and it knocks all the critters out of the way. Is that supposed to be a callback to something she's good at, is my point? Or did that just happen for no reason whatsoever? Oh, so get this grand logic. Lil Leo and his stepfather, the landlord of this place, ends up coming over to the place, ends up shutting the power off on the floor that the family, Annie and the Menges, they're staying with their grandparents, whoever they all are, shuts all the power and lights off. Then he goes with Lil Leo to go look for them after he shut the power off. Why even shut the power off if you're gonna go talk to these people? Just to make it a little more spooky, right, for the critters? Because that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, it's at that point where you just start thinking anything like usual with me. Why are they trapped in this apartment complex to begin with? Isn't there a lot of entrances and exits to get out of this place? They didn't even try the front door. Then there's the window down. There's a few windows down in the laundry room. There's the windows on every floor for every apartment. Why are they barricading themselves in one room? The whole second act of this movie is so slow. There's nothing really going on. There's a few scenes that are cool with the critters, with the puppetry and everything, and the effects work. But there's nothing like on the level of the last movie. Like that whole scene in the restaurant where they're causing a muck and Ugg and Lee come in and blow them all away. I said that it's fantastic, the work with the puppetry there. We get nothing like that in this movie. Like, this is very, very slow moving. But at least the puppetry is still good of what we see, and at least they still look like fucking critters. Alright, that's pretty funny, because the dad, Clifford, got a quill, porcupine quill from one of the critters in his neck, and so did the Moo Moo woman. Rosie, I think her official name is, but we'll go with Moo Moo Woman. They both got one in the neck each, so they're like I said, it like knocks you out in the last movie. And they're sitting there, and the kids ask them, they're like, "Can you climb a ladder?" And Moo Moo Woman goes like, "Nope, can't climb a ladder." And then the father goes, "I'll climb a ladder tomorrow." And then they both start laughing. That's funny as hell. And then they proceed to climb the ladder. I will say this, because right after I just said we didn't get like a great scene with puppetry, it's not a great scene, but we see the critters messing around in the kitchen, and they're spilling over baked beans, they're eating it. Looks good, but I will say the critters do look cheaper. Like, for sure. Like, you could definitely see it in that scene. Up until then, it wasn't too much of a difference. They look a lot more comical in this movie as compared to the first two. So they don't look as scary. Critters are chugging dish soap and blowing bubbles. Having said that, though, even though they don't look as scary and they look cheaper, they still look damn good. Like, they don't look bad in any way whatsoever. Also, a fire broke out earlier, and now Charlie shows up to the rescue, and they talk again, but it's the same as they said in the second one. They go, "Uh-oh." If that's all they say, I'm fine with that. Like, a little critter, all they can say is, "Uh-oh, I'm bitching." That's fine. As long as they're not having full-on conversations like the ghoulies do in the later ones. The critters are almost getting them, and like Lil Leo taking whatever it is and bashing one. He's going, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." That's hilarious. And of course, since Charlie is a lovable goofball, he kind of saves the day, but screws up many times in the attempts until he finally does save the day. And all the critters are destroyed. Now, this was filmed, I think, at the same time as Critters 4, which now that makes even more sense that the writer or co-writer of the script for this directed the next one. But Charlie ends up going down, and let me say this happened in Los Angeles in the next movie. There better be no speculation or people who doubt that this happened or that these people are crazy. Like they thought with Brad in the second movie, that they thought he was nuts for the stories he told for the first movie. No, you had an entire apartment building get infested and attacked by creatures from unknown extraterrestrial origin. So don't tell me in the next movie that these people are thought of as kooks. But then again, it's Los Angeles, so there's a lot of kooks out there. But yeah, so we get a to be continued here, since this was filmed, right after or right alongside Critters 4. So all the critters are seemingly taken care of, and then Charlie goes down into the basement, and there's 2 critter eggs left in the washing machine. And it's very annoying. The way they do this whole credits, like the end credits here, the sequence, they could have just let this scene play out and then play the credits and play to be continued. Then we get the credits. Instead, it's just every few seconds of Charlie walking around. Then he sees something. It's freeze frames on him, and you get more credits. And then he goes a little bit more, and he's about to open the washing machine, and it freezes. It's credit. It's very annoying. It really drags itself out for its own pleasure here. But when we finally get to see something, we see a hologram from Ugg. So we do get to see him telling Charlie not to exterminate these last 2 eggs because the Intergalactic Federation makes the rules, and there's a rule that you're not allowed to exterminate a species. So these are the last 2 critter eggs in existence, and killing them would exterminate the critters forever. So since it's a rule for the Intergalactic Federation in this franchise, he has to put them in a pod. And they're going to be taken to who knows where for the next movie. And then a big intergalactic pod crashes into the basement, and it just says to be continued on top of Charlie's freaked out face. Let me say this. For Critters 3, for direct-to-video, 3rd installment in the series of mini creatures that we have a few of, as we know, this movie was nowhere near as bad as I was led to believe by so many people. This was not a bad movie. It's not good. I would never watch this again. Are you serious? Nothing really happens. The puppetry is good of what we get of it. What we see of the critters is fine. It's just the story sucks. That's like the biggest thing. The story blows in this movie. It is terrible. Like I said, the pacing is awful too. This is one hell of a slow movie. Funny how the problem with this movie is I feel like they should have went balls to the wall crazy with the critters, like they do in Ghoulies Go to College. My issue with that movie is how balls to the wall crazy they went with the Ghoulies in Ghoulies Go to College. So, I mean, I think Gremlins 2 is like the best middle ground there. But this movie's not terrible by any means. Like, Lil Leo does a great job. Annie, the main girl, and they set up a date at the end. Oh, that's cute. She does a good job in this. The little kid Johnny, I mean, kid acting, but whatever, he's acceptable. Charlie's fun and lovable as always. The critters look fine. This movie's not terrible. This is like, alright, if Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, is Friday 8, Jason Goes to Manhattan level quality, this movie is like John Carpenter's Halloween. Like, seriously, that's how much big of a difference in quality there is between those 2 entries. The 3rd entry in both of those franchises. Like, it's scary how much better this movie was. But again, I'd never watch it again because the story sucks. But Critters 3, Critters 4, I'll get to once I'm settled in upstate, probably in the next 2 days or so. But, alright guys. That was a fun watch. Wherever you're from, hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, or night. I'm going to get some rest. Hopefully, I'll be over this cold, whatever the hell it is, tomorrow. Have a good night, guys. So now they got, like, crystal critter detection room. So now they have crystal critter detection. Charlie ended up dropping what Lil Leo just dropped. There's this guy named Mario. There's this dude, right? Why is it so funny? There's this guy. I gotta stop looking at him on the screen. That's what's doing it. And the sickness, that's not helping either. And he thinks it's just a rat. And he thinks it's just a rat. And he thinks it's one of his rats, so he tells it to go upstairs. Never thought I'd see the day, but we get a hot sneak. Lil Leo